Uniontown, T-Town, touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back into the process. Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am your host, Justin Smith, the Director of Recruiting for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this episode. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the notification bell to be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. I'm here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news. And we have quite a bit of updates to get to today, starting with the push for the Crimson Tide as they continue to push for 2024 four-star tight end Jaden Reddell, one of the top overall tight ends in the 2024 recruiting class. Alabama actually hosted him for an unofficial visit earlier this month when they hosted their junior day, their early March junior day, and Reddell returned to Tuscaloosa after visiting Alabama during the football season. Actually picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide in September. When you talk about Reddell, you're talking about a guy who's in the conversation to be the number one tight end in the country for the 2024 recruiting cycle. When you look at his game, it is easy to see why. He's easily one of the top receiving tight ends in the country at 6'4", 225 pounds. He can reportedly run a 4.41 40-yard dash. So if you're moving like that at 6'4" and 220 pounds, you know this is a guy who can be an explosive athlete in a lot of different positions on the field, specifically at the tight end position, and his ability to run after the catch, using that big frame to make himself difficult to tackle in open field and bring down in the open field. But he also accelerates after the catch, which is something you do not see a lot out of tight end prospects. So he's definitely a guy who looks to be a top target for the Crimson Tide at the tight end position at the moment. Had an opportunity to catch up with them after he took that unofficial visit to the University of Alabama earlier this month, and he told me that was one of his favorite visits. He got an opportunity to tour the facilities, had an opportunity to catch up with Saban because he actually met Saban when he visited Alabama during the football season on an unofficial visit after picking up an offer from the Crimson Tide in September. Also got an opportunity to catch up with some Alabama players and some guys who Alabama was targeting in terms of recruits. So it was a great visit for Reddell. In terms of Reddell's recruitment, he's one of those guys who's going to take a lot of visits throughout the spring to try to get a better feel for a lot of teams. He visited Alabama recently. Alabama was actually the first program to host him during his loaded spring slate. He visited Notre Dame. He's going to get an opportunity to get out to a lot of different programs over the next couple of weeks, just like I said, get a better feel of his recruitment, get a better feel of which schools he feels is taking him serious, which school he feels is going to be the best fit for him in the future. And guys like him are most likely going to want to take official visits during the summer, so you're going to want to be comfortable with your decision in terms of which schools you will officially visit. I know Michigan is a program that is in the mix for him. He also plans to hit up other schools like Tennessee, Oregon, and Colorado. So his recruitment looks to be wide open. Like I said, getting a feel for a lot of different schools. But Alabama, up until this point, is one of his favorite visits. And this is a guy who has had high interest in the Crimson Tide for quite some time now, which is something you could say about a lot of recruits. I remember before he got the Alabama offer, I think it had to be early in the football season. He got it in September. Before he got it, he actually reached out to me and was just saying he is a guy who he feels deserves an Alabama offer, just saying the Alabama offer would be more than a blessing to him. Of course, he eventually got that offer from the Crimson Tide, and of course, when you get that offer, it's a big one for everybody, but he's a guy who just envisioned himself getting it early on, and the Crimson Tide looked to be in a good position with Reddell so far. Another guy who the Crimson Tide are sitting pretty with at the moment is five-star defensive back KJ Bolden, the number one safety in the 2024 recruiting class. So the Crimson Tide are going after at Bruford High School. When you talk about Bruford High School, you know the success that Alabama has had there in recent years. Of course, they pulled Justice Haynes from there this past season. Also pulled Isaiah Bond and Jake Pope from there the season before. Have other Bruford players on their roster, including Seth McLaughlin, a center for the Crimson Tide, starting multiple games over his career at the University of Alabama. So Bruford is a school who has produced some top talent. The Crimson Tide are continuing to go after that top talent, and Bolden is one of those guys, an explosive safety who could be a wide receiver or defensive back at the next level, similar to Isaiah Bond. run. He's a guy with a lot of speed as well, closes on the football really well at that safety position in terms of him playing in coverage and just closing on the football. Whenever he sees where the ball is going, he's quickly to it, quickly disrupting things on the back end. But like I said, that explosiveness goes over to the offensive side of the football as well. He actually is a track athlete, was set to visit Alabama actually last week for an unofficial visit. He actually called off that visit because he had a track meet, but he does plan to return to Tuscaloosa in April for an unofficial visit. He definitely wants to get back to Tuscaloosa as soon as he can. He will be back in Alabama in Tuscaloosa on April 5th during his spring break. So the Crimson Tide are definitely still in the mix for the #1 safety in the country, KJ Bolden, who recently rescheduled his visit to the University of Alabama from last weekend to April 5th. A lot of other programs, of course, are still heavily involved with Bolden. He's a guy who has a top 15. Now, I know when guys have a school is that big, a lot of fans may say, yo, why are you releasing a top 15? But I think that just paints a picture for Bolden, at least at the moment, that his recruitment is pretty open, but there are some schools that are really standing out to him. Of course, he speaks highly of Georgia, with them being the in-state program, and spoken highly of Alabama in the past. You got Ohio State, Colorado, Clemson in the mix. So we hear those schools being talked about. You kind of feel that they are maybe in a better position than some other programs, but he does have that top 15. His recruitment seems to be pretty open with him considering those programs at the moment. But like I said, he will visit Alabama on April 5th. We'll return to Tuscaloosa after rescheduling his visit from last weekend. The Crimson Tide's 5-star commit Jaylen Mbakwe actually was on the campus of the University of Alabama earlier this month when the Crimson Tide hosted their Junior Day event. Has locked in an official visit to the University of Alabama. Actually will be in Tuscaloosa during the weekend of June 23rd to take an official. And I think that is pretty big for Alabama. I know a lot of times guys, especially in-state guys, do not take official visits to Tuscaloosa because they've been there so many times. So when you take a look at Mbakwe, he's a top defensive back prospect in this class. And like I talked about in recent shows, a lot of these 2024 guys are just continuing to see an increased interest in them from other programs. And Mbakwe is no different. I actually took an unofficial visit to Auburn on yesterday to watch their spring practice. Had an opportunity to catch up with them after that practice. And he told me that he liked Coach Freeze's coaching style. He said he loves what he's bringing to Auburn. Of course, he spoke highly of the Crimson Tide new defensive coordinator, Kevin Steele, as well. When I talked to him, just talking about how he feels that Steele is a great hire for Alabama. Said he loves Coach Steele as well. So Mbakwe has a lot of love for Alabama. I think he grew up as an Alabama fan, so he knows what it means to get an offer from the Crimson Tide and have opportunity to play for Alabama, being an in-state kid. But like I said, he's also a top 2024 prospect, so he's going to get top 2024 prospect attention from other programs. So I do not expect that to slow down until Mbakwe shuts down his recruitment or signs a national letter of intent to the University of Alabama. But he constantly is saying that he's locked in with the Crimson Tide. He's going to continue to enjoy his recruitment. I think he is going to do that to the fullest. It wouldn't surprise me if he takes official visits to other programs as well. But I feel in the end, at least at this moment, if I had to make a prediction, he will be in the Tide's 2024 recruiting class when things are said and done. I do feel it's going to continue to be a lot of talk surrounding him with so many other schools showing that increased interest in him. Also with him wanting to just enjoy his recruitment as a whole. So that is what I'll pay attention to when it comes to Mbakwe moving forward in the 2024 recruiting class. Julian Sayin is another 5-star commit for the Crimson Tide. He will be back in Tuscaloosa later this month on March 22nd. Similar to Mbakwe, he's a guy who's going to continue to see increased interest from a lot of different programs. I know Ohio State offered him recently. I think they are the latest school to offer him. He did visit Miami. I know a lot of you guys saw that viral video of a member of Miami's staff. I'm not sure if he was on their coaching staff or just was a member of the staff at the University of Miami, but he gave saying a recruiting pitch that went viral. He basically threw a shot at Tuscaloosa, so you know that other teams are still recruiting Sayin hard. Of course, he's a 5-star quarterback out of Carlsbad High School in California. The Crimson Tide's quarterback commit for this 2024 recruiting class. I think it's good that the Crimson Tide are going to get him back on campus, especially after they hired their new offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, who had a relationship with Sayin dating back to his time at Notre Dame. So Sayin set to return to Alabama on March 22nd. A SEC commit who will be in Tuscaloosa in the future is Kaleb Beasley, a 4-star defensive back out of Lipscomb High School in Nashville, Tennessee. I actually saw Beasley play a couple of times this past season. I actually saw him during the first week of high school football when Lipscomb took on a school out of Georgia, and he was very impressive. I think the first play that caught my attention was, I think he was going up against LeBron Gatlin, one of the top wide receivers out of Georgia, in the back of the end zone. Kaleb Beasley just basically went over the top. It almost looked like he mossed one of the top wide receivers in the state of Georgia and went up to catch an interception. I was like, yo, who is that kid? He made a couple of different plays that game. I was just wondering who he was. Got an opportunity to see him that following week when Lipscomb traveled to Alabaster to play Thompson High School on a Saturday. That game was on ESPN, and Beasley basically sealed up that game by picking up a fumble and returning it to the house. Looked really good in coverage as well. And I was thinking, yo, that guy may get an offer from the Crimson Tide in the future. I caught up with him after the game. He told me when it comes to Alabama, the main thing was that they wanted to watch his film. He feels that Alabama is a great school, of course, feels that Nick Saban is the greatest coach in college football. He said that Alabama produces defensive backs, so they are a great program. So he has a lot of respect for the Crimson Tide. Does not have an offer from Alabama at the moment. I think that could change in terms of them watching this updated film that you guys are watching, getting an opportunity to see that. I think they could put an offer on the table for him in April. That is something I would pay attention to. But right now, he is verbally committed to the Tennessee Volunteers. We will continue to monitor Alabama's pursuit for him, see if they will eventually put an offer on the table, see if they want to see him camp again in the future or something like that. But he does plan to be in Tuscaloosa on April 10th. Did want to give you guys that update on Kaleb Beasley, 4-star defensive back out of Nashville, Tennessee, is verbally committed to the Vols. Speaking of camping at Alabama, the Crimson Tide's coaching staff is going to want to see as many of these guys camp as possible. One of those guys is Mbakwe, is easily a 4-star offensive tackle, stands at 6'7", weighs approximately 325 pounds at the moment, projected to be an offensive tackle at the next level. You see his film right here. You see him moving really well, has a quick switch to his game, getting up the field, blocking down the field, pulling and blocking, showing some great mobility for a guy his size. Nick Saban described him as just an athlete. And you see the athleticism on display. Again, this is a 6'7", 320-pound offensive lineman moving like this. So you see some of that athleticism, but with a lot of guys, top guys who have great film, Crimson Tide still want to see them in person at camp, and that is understandable. I know a lot of times fans may wonder why they want to see everybody camp, because you want to see guys in person, you want to evaluate them in person. There's nothing really better than in-person evaluations. And in Alabama's defense, a lot of these guys, they haven't seen play before playing a game before. You can make an argument that we have seen, staff here at Touchdown Alabama have seen more guys in person than Alabama's coaching staff. For example, we've seen Jaylen Mbakwe in terms of 7-on-7 working out with former Alabama defensive back Justin Woodall in Birmingham. We've seen them probably 3 times over the last month or so. The last time Alabama has seen them possibly play in person is when Clay Chalkville played Thompson and when Freddie Roach was in attendance. So you definitely want to get to see these guys as many times as possible throughout this process and throughout their recruitment. So getting these guys back on campus to camp is really important. Alabama is big on that. They've had some big-time guys who have gone on to have successful careers at Alabama be forced to camp. Will Anderson is one of those guys. I think it was a big story at the NFL draft when I think announcers just said how his recruitment took off when he took a visit to Alabama and camped in Tuscaloosa. I remember Justice Haynes' dad. Of course, Justice Haynes, 5-star running back. His dad played in the NFL. I talked to his dad. His dad told me that Nick Saban wanted him to go through some drills and wanted him to camp, and he impressed Nick Saban at that camp, and there was no huge surprise why he shot up Alabama's board. It was one of their top running back targets in this 2023 recruiting cycle. So Marquez easily is a guy who Alabama wants to see camp. Their relationship with him has continued to grow. He told me that his mom loves Alabama. He recently dropped his top 10, included the Crimson Tide, has official visits scheduled to Georgia and Tennessee. I think once Alabama gets him on campus for camp and they feel that he is going to legitimately be one of their top targets, I think he's going to set an official visit schedule, an official visit to Tuscaloosa. But easily super talented talented, big athlete out of Illinois who a lot of teams would love to have on their team in the future. The last guy I want to talk about today is actually Keyshawn Flowers, a 2024 linebacker out of Maryland who the Crimson Tide's new inside linebacker coach Robert Balla offered. Balla actually knew Flowers when he was a coach at Liberty. He offered him when he was at Liberty, actually, but when he got to Tuscaloosa, Alabama's offensive line coach Eric Wolford, who was recruiting Flowers before Balla got there, but he asked Balla about Flowers, and he basically gave him the thumbs up, saying that he does like him, and he thinks that he's a guy who could fit in at the University of Alabama. So that offer came from the Crimson Tide's new outside linebacker coach Robert Balla to Keyshawn Flowers out of Maryland, a linebacker who, when you watch his film, the thing that impressed me the most is his ability to shoot gaps on blitzes and basically get after the quarterback and just make a stop in the backfield when he's blitzing. He seems to blitz a lot when you take a look at his Hudl film, but he looked good in space as well in terms of just reading and reacting at times. One thing I would like to see out of his game, how he looks in coverage in terms of defending the pass, but he's a guy who is a physical linebacker, tackles well, brings his pads, brings his arms, wraps up, like I said, quickly gets into the backfield, shoots the gap really quickly. It looks really explosive in that regard. Plans to visit Tuscaloosa at some point this month. And I asked him about his opinions and his thoughts on Alabama. He said he actually has been a fan of Alabama for a long time, just based on the success, which is something we hear a lot. These guys grew up, of course, watching Alabama dominate under Nick Saban, so he has really been a fan of that. He's looking forward to getting to Tuscaloosa, just seeing how things play out with Alabama football moving forward. But those are the updates I want to provide you guys with today. Before you leave, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, subscribers, hit that notification bell for me so you can be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. Then head over to touchdowналabama.com, pick up your subscription. With that subscription, you'll be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles, get your hands on our yearly Prince magazine issue. Then head over to the Apple App Store. If you have an Apple device, if you have an Android device, be sure to download the app from the Google Play Store. The Touchdown Alabama app, of course. With that app, breaking news notifications can be sent to your mobile device. As always, I am Justin Smith, the Director of Recruiting for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.